I don't know how to explain it, but that day, everything felt different. The air was lighter. The colors were softer. Even time seemed to slow down, as if the world itself knew something beautiful was about to happen. I remember waking up before the sun rose, feeling that strange stillness that comes before a storm, or maybe before a miracle. I couldn't tell which one it would be. My heart was calm, but underneath, there was this quiet vibration, this secret rhythm that whispered, "Today will change everything." When I looked outside, the sky was covered with a pale gold light. The trees were still wet from the night rain, and the smell of earth filled the air. I pressed my forehead against the window and smiled without reason. I didn't know what was waiting for me that day, but I knew it would be something I would never forget. He had asked me to meet him by the lake, the same lake where we had our first argument and our first kiss. The message was simple. Let's go back to where everything began. No explanation, no details. Just that. I read that message 100 times. Maybe because it sounded too ordinary for him, or maybe because deep down I already knew. While getting dressed, I kept thinking about our story, about how everything that was supposed to break us somehow made us stronger. Love, I learned, isn't about perfect moments. It's about the times when everything goes wrong, and you still choose each other anyway. When I first met him, I wasn't looking for love. I was running away from it. I had just left a long relationship that left me feeling small, invisible. I had promised myself I wouldn't fall again, not that easily. And then he appeared, like a quiet interruption in my carefully built walls. He wasn't the kind of man who tried to impress. He didn't need to. He listened, really listened. I remember the first time he looked at me. Not at my clothes, not at my smile, not at the things I was trying to show. He looked at me like he could see the parts one was trying to hide. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to pretend. Our first date wasn't planned. It was raining that afternoon, and I was sitting under the old cafe awning, watching the drops slide down the glass. My umbrella had broken, and I was too stubborn to go home. He passed by, recognized me, and asked if he could sit for a moment. We talked about everything and nothing. Music, books, the things we'd lost, the dreams we no longer believed in. It was supposed to be a short conversation, but the cafe closed and we didn't notice. When we finally stood up, the rain had stopped and he smiled and said, "Maybe it was meant to happen this way. Sometimes the sky needs to cry a little before giving us a clear view." I laughed, thinking it was just a poetic thing to say. But now, when I look back, I realize it was the first time he taught me what love really feels like. Not grand, not loud, just honest. We became inseparable. Not because everything was perfect, it wasn't. We argued, we misunderstood each other, and sometimes we walked away just to see if the other would follow. But every fight ended the same way, with him showing up at my door, holding something ridiculous, like a half-melted ice cream or a broken flower, saying, "I didn't know what to bring. I just didn't want to be without you." And that was enough. There was one night I'll never forget. We were lying on the grass, looking at the stars. I asked him if he believed in destiny. He stayed silent for a while and then whispered, "I believe in choices that feel like destiny." Then, as a soft drizzle started to fall, he took my hand and said, "If it ever rains again on a night like this, a night when we're together and everything feels fragile and real, I'll take it as a sign that this love is meant to last." That became our promise. Simple, unplanned, almost childish, but somehow it became sacred. Months passed. We built a life around small things: morning coffees, shared playlists, handwritten notes. We weren't perfect people, but together we created something gentle, something steady, until life decided to test us. It started with something small. A misunderstanding, a word said too fast. Then silence. Then pride. It's strange how love can survive storms, but sometimes die from a single moment of ego. We spent weeks without speaking. I told myself I was fine, that I didn't need him. But every night I found myself scrolling through old messages, reliving old laughs. And one night, when it started raining outside, I remembered his words. "If it ever rains again on a night like this." I broke. I realized that pride had never protected me from pain. It had only kept me away from love. The next morning, I went to the cafe where we had first met. He was there, sitting in the same seat, like time had folded back on itself just for us. He looked up and for a moment everything stopped. No music, no noise, just the sound of my heart beating. I didn't say a word. Neither did he. He stood, walked toward me, and whispered, "I was waiting for the rain." That's when I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I finally understood love doesn't always need explanations. Sometimes it just needs two people who decide to stay. We rebuilt everything slowly. This time with more patience, more truth. We talked about fears, about dreams, about the kind of future we wanted. The kind that doesn't sparkle, but shines quietly like sunlight through leaves. He told me he wanted a life where love wasn't a performance, but a presence. Where every good morning meant, "I still choose you." And from that moment, every day with him felt like a soft unfolding. An ordinary miracle. Then came that message. Let's go back to where everything began. It was a Sunday. The sky was pale gray, and the wind carried the smell of rain. I almost didn't go. Part of me was scared that maybe this was another goodbye. But something in my chest told me otherwise. When I arrived at the lake, he was standing by the water, facing away. The light hit him softly, outlining his silhouette like a memory I didn't want to fade. I walked toward him, each step heavy with anticipation. When he turned, he smiled, that same quiet smile that had always disarmed me. His voice was low, trembling slightly. "I didn't bring flowers or a speech," he said. "I just wanted you to see something." He pointed toward the water. The first drops of rain had started to fall, small circles spreading across the lake's surface. And in that moment, I knew. Our promise. The rain. The place where everything began. It all aligned perfectly, silently. He took my hands, looked into my eyes, and whispered, "Do you remember what we said that night?" I nodded, tears already filling my eyes. "That if it rains again," I whispered back. He smiled softly. "Then it means this love was meant to last." And then he fell silent. The kind of silence that holds 1,000 words, 1,000 memories, and one unspoken question. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The rain kept falling, soft, delicate, like the world didn't want to disturb the moment. I could hear my own heartbeat blending with the sound of water touching the earth. He was still holding my hands, but his eyes told a story that words never could. It was then that I noticed his hands were trembling. Not from fear, but from something deeper, from the weight of everything we had lived to reach that exact second. He took a deep breath and said quietly, "I thought I understood happiness before you, but now I know happiness isn't a moment. It's a person." My throat closed. I couldn't speak. He smiled gently, that same shy smile that always appeared when he was about to say something that mattered. "I've been carrying this with me for months," he said, reaching into his pocket. He took out a small wooden box, not fancy, not polished. It looked worn, as if it had traveled with him through every fight, every night apart, every moment of doubt. He opened it slowly, and inside was a ring, simple, timeless, like everything that truly lasts. No diamonds, just a thin band engraved with one small word: always. The rain grew stronger, falling between us, around us, like 1,000 tiny blessings. He looked at me, really looked, and said, "I don't have the right words, and I don't want to promise perfection. I just want to keep choosing you every day, through every storm, through every silence. So, will you let me spend my life learning how to love you better?" My world stopped. Not in a dramatic way, it just became still. Like every sound, every breath, every piece of who I was had found its place. Tears fell before I could stop them. And through the rain, through the blur, through the trembling of my hands, I whispered, "Yes." That was it. Just one word. But it carried the weight of everything we'd survived. We didn't rush to put the ring on. We didn't need witnesses, applause, or cameras. We just stood there, soaked, shaking, laughing like children who'd just been caught in the rain. He held my face with both hands and kissed my forehead. Not a grand gesture, not a movie scene, something real, something human. And as he kissed me, thunder rolled softly in the distance. It sounded almost like applause. He leaned close and whispered against my skin, "I told you the rain would be our sign." I smiled through my tears. "You kept your promise." He laughed, that quiet laugh that always made my chest ache in the best way, and said, "No, we kept it." Later, we found shelter under an old tree by the lake. We sat there, dripping, shivering, and happier than I had ever been. The rain slowed, turning into a soft mist, wrapping around us like a secret. I rested my head on his shoulder, feeling the rhythm of his heartbeat against mine. He ran his fingers through my hair and said, "Do you remember the first time we met? You said you didn't believe in happy endings." I laughed softly. "I still don't." He looked at me puzzled. I lifted my head and met his eyes. "Because this isn't an ending," I said. "It's a beginning disguised as happiness." He smiled and I could see it, the exact moment he realized that what we had wasn't fragile anymore. It was rooted, grown, real. That night, we went back to the cafe. It was closed just like that first night. But he knocked on the door anyway, and the owner, an old man with kind eyes, let us in when he saw our soaked clothes and laughing faces. We ordered 2 coffees and sat by the same window. The rain outside made the world look like a watercolor painting. I looked at him across the table, the ring glimmering faintly under the light, and thought, how strange that something as vast as love could fit so perfectly in such small moments. He reached across the table, took my hand and said, "Do you know what I love most about you?" I smiled. "What?" "That you make ordinary things feel sacred." I felt my heart tighten, because that's exactly what he had done for me, turned the simple into the unforgettable, the quiet into the eternal. In the weeks that followed, everyone kept asking about the proposal, where it happened, how it happened, what he said. And every time I smiled and said, "It rained." That's all I ever told them. Because how could I explain that the magic wasn't in the place or the words but in the feeling? That moment when everything falls into alignment. When the past, the pain, and the promise become one soft truth. You're exactly where you're meant to be. We started planning the wedding, but not in the traditional way. No big hall, no fancy invitations. Just a small garden, a few close friends, and a sky that we both secretly hoped would rain. One night, while we were writing our vows, he looked up and said, "What if it rains that day too?" I smiled. "Then we'll know it's our forever all over again." He grinned. "Then I'll make sure to bring an umbrella big enough for both of us." I laughed. "Please don't. We have a tradition to keep." As days passed, I started noticing small things about him. Things I had seen 100 times before, but now they felt different. The way he hummed when he cooked. The way he fixed my hair when the wind blew it across my face. The way he looked at me like he was still trying to memorize me, afraid I might disappear. It's funny. Before him, I used to think love was about big gestures. About fireworks or dramatic confessions or perfect timing. But love, real love, it's quieter. It lives in the moments between words. It hides in laughter, in mistakes, in forgiveness. And that's how I knew. That day wasn't just the happiest day of my life. It was the day I finally understood what happiness really is. Months later, the wedding day arrived. Morning light poured through the curtains, soft and golden. Birds sang outside and I thought, maybe it won't rain today. But deep down, I hoped it would. I put on my dress, simple and white. Nothing extravagant. Just me. And as I looked at my reflection, I saw the journey written across my face. Every fear, every doubt, every tear that led me here. When I stepped outside, I saw him waiting at the altar, calm, steady, eyes filled with every promise he had ever made. And then, as if the universe couldn't resist keeping our story alive, a single raindrop fell onto my hand. Then another. And another. He looked up at the sky and smiled. Our guests started to cover their heads, but we didn't move. We stood there, letting the rain wash over us, just like that day by the lake. He took my hand and I whispered, "Do you think it's a sign?" He laughed softly. "It always is." And there, in front of everyone, soaked in rain and joy, he kissed me. The world disappeared. The sound of the rain became music, and my heart whispered the same words it had whispered that morning by the window. Today will change everything. Sometimes I still wake up before the sun rises, feeling that same stillness in the air. And every time I remember that day, the rain, his trembling hands, the word always carved into silver. It wasn't the ring or the lake, or even the promise that made it special. It was the way he looked at me, as if happiness had finally found a home. And maybe that's what love truly is. Not a fairy tale. Not perfection. Just two souls choosing each other over and over again. That was the happiest day of my entire life.